Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Bloody Jacob to bring you my weekly Game of Thrones review. This week's episode was Season 5, Episode 5. Have to let my cat out. Apologize for that. I could easily just restart the video considering we're just now 30 seconds into it. But I'm keeping it realistic for you guys, so I hope you appreciate that. Anyway, so we're reviewing episode 5 of season 5. It was entitled Kill the Boy. And when you first hear that line, you think we're talking about that boy who killed Ygritte, in the battle, for the wall, back at the end of season 4. I believe that was episode 9. But no, it's actually a line from the Maester, talking to Jon Snow. Jon Snow came to, sought out him for advice on a decision he was about to make or something he was about to do or announce. Of course, being that he is now commander of the Night's Watch, obviously. And without even knowing what he was planning on doing, the Maester, just said he has to do it. He has to show that he is in control. He is the Lord Commander, as he is. And the line comes where he says he has to kill the boy to become the man. And he's not referring to the actual boy literally. He's talking about Jon Snow himself, saying that this is like a step, it's kind of like a step in his sort of a man, into his manhood, like a way of becoming like an even stronger version of himself, take control and do what he thinks is right. So I thought that was pretty good. And Jon Snow's decision that he was making was that he was actually going to, locate the remaining wildlings, outside of the wall. And he would, bring them past the wall into the Night's Watch and actually, have land available for them, on the other side. And, of course, that sparks a huge debate among the, rest of the members of the Night's Watch. Given that they have such a long history of, battling the wildlings, a lot of them have lost family to wildlings, things of that nature. So you can understand why they'd be pretty against the idea. Like, I forget his name, I apologize, but even though Jon Snow is, sort of friends of the Night's Watch, in the Night's Watch, he says, he'll follow him anywhere, but, you can't agree with this. And, of course, the former Lord Commander doesn't agree with it either. But what is realized is that, what Jon Snow really tries to illustrate is that, if he doesn't show the wildlings any mercy and just leaves them where they're at, of course, the White Walkers are eventually going to come and they're going to go through the wildlings first. And then they'll, get to the wall and things of that nature. But if they allow the remaining wildlings to cross over and take over that land that's not too far off from them, they can actually use them as allies in order to fight the White Walkers when they do eventually show up to take over. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting proposition. You gotta think about it from both perspectives. It's kind of a difficult choice to make, I'd say, but really Jon Snow is just trying to think of the greater good here, like the overall scope of things, you know what I mean? And so he talks to I forget his name. You guys can comment, you can complain about me forgetting as much as you want, but I forget, I'm sorry. But so he talks to the next in command, after what happened to Mance Rayder, and he is actually surprised by Jon Snow freeing him of the cuffs and, to go tell the rest of the wildlings, their idea. But Jon Snow actually has to come with him. Or else, the other wildlings are going to think it's some kind of trap if they don't hear it themselves from, the Lord Commander, who is Jon Snow. So yeah, that was one of the more interesting parts of the episode. And, I'm getting a little bit tired of, them talking about the wildlings coming. We've only seen them here and there every so often throughout the series. And yeah, they are intense, but yeah, they're also kind of easily killed, which is kind of funny. I mean, I know Sam had that special dagger, the dragon glass dagger, when he killed one of them. But still, it seemed pretty simple. But we know, and we've seen that shot of them having a whole army of dead, walking in a certain direction. But it's been a while, and are they really still stalling with this? I mean, I know they're trying to build something huge and something that's probably going to be pretty great, but I feel like it's taking way too long. I don't know. Is this going to be like an end of the series type of thing that happens, or what? I don't know. We'll see. But I haven't read the book, so I wouldn't know. And but nonetheless, I know it's going to be good when it actually happens. I'm just kind of like, come on. I don't know. It's good, it's always good quality, but I do feel like they're stalling and they're taking it a bit slower than they would really have to at times with the story. But nonetheless, it's still good. All the acting's good and stuff like that, so it's not like I'm having to watch shit while I'm waiting for it, I just have to sit through some, a bit slower yet well done, more small scale moments, you know what I mean? And you can still enjoy those for their own reasons. And then another interesting part of the episode to me was actually at Castle Black, or, actually Winterfell, I should say. Yeah, it's actually Winterfell because, of course, Ramsay and Lord Bolton, have taken over, and, they're, concerned about, Stannis, of course, eventually marching north. And, he has to go into Winterfell and cross and go through Winterfell before he actually gets to King's Landing. So I know they're kind of aware of Stannis' likely impending attack and takeover attempt, and we see that Stannis is actually starting to head in that general direction for real at the end of the episode. And I really hope Stannis wins when he gets there, because the Boltons are just extremely, extremely dislikable. And this episode just pretty much added to it, or just kept it the same. Ramsay, we see the girl he's been with for a while, Miranda, she's at first seems upset over Ramsay getting married to Sansa, that arranged marriage that's, it's going to be happening shortly. And which I still think is a very disgusting thing for Peter Baelish to leave her to do. But yeah, Peter Baelish isn't a very reliable guy in the first place. But, so, you also see Ramsay and his father sort of butting heads. He sort of like takes some shots at his pretty much his stepmother. She's a rather large woman, and he just says, how did he find it? How could you really have sex with her? And then we see, of course I mentioned Ramsay and Miranda, but Ramsay eventually just gets into her head and says, oh yeah, who else are you gonna marry? You're nothing. That's basically what he's saying. And she ends up making out with him anyway and then having sex again. Makes sense. But anyway, so she's obviously fairly twisted herself. But the really big point that came out of this part of the episode was Theon, or Reek. And Miranda actually brought Sansa to Reek, who, sleeps with the dogs, of course. And, he's actually Theon, of course, Reek, of course, being the name that was given to him by Ramsay when he was training him to be completely obedient and servant to him. So Sansa actually recognizes Theon, of course, as they teased in an episode prior. And that was a pretty good moment because it makes you think back to, Robb and all that. And Ramsay later forces Theon, or Greek, to apologize to Sansa for killing her brothers when he tried to take over Winterfell himself earlier in the series. And Sansa sort of objects to the way they're treating Reek anyhow. And I'm sort of wondering what's going to happen with this. I'm definitely not looking forward to this arranged marriage. I'm sort of hoping that even if they do get married, Stannis shows up eventually and Ramsay and his father are both killed. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm also kind of guessing eventually Reek is going to sort of come back around as Theon and sort of like maybe end up helping Sansa in some form or fashion. That's what I see. Theon definitely deserves like some success again, you know what I mean? Even if he was a bit of a douche beforehand with what he did to Robb and Winterfell himself, I feel like he's kind of learned his lesson about times 10, so we'll see. Let's see what else. Of course, Daenerys struggling to decide, how to react to the death of Sarah Barristan. And, she's pretty upset about it. And, she gives the body her respect and things like that towards the beginning of the episode. And we see that Grey Worm actually did survive the attack, which is what I thought happened. Barristan dropped dead, died of his wounds, but Grey Worm actually managed to survive. And we see some romance between him and his gal. Him actually saying that it wasn't, he was like ashamed of his fear that he felt when and the girl at first thought it was because he was dying. And she says any man fears death, and no, it was the fear that he was never going to see her again. Aww. But anyway, I actually do like Grey Worm a fair amount. I think he's a very one of our very few honorable characters. You know what I mean? So that was good. And Daenerys deciding what to do with the leaders. She suspects going to be involved with the Sons of the Harpy, and she brings the few of them to her dragons, and one of them is burned alive and basically devoured by two of them. And she sort of threatens that she's going to kill every one of them like that. But she eventually ends up kind of realizing that she needs to, finally coming around to the idea that she needs to make peace. She needs to try to make some form of peace with the rest of the people. Sort of what Barristan was trying to illustrate towards her. And so she's going to reopen the fighting pits, and of course then she actually decided she's going to marry, I forget the guy's name, the darker skinned guy with that sort of mini afro type of thing going on. Yeah, he kind of annoys me. But yeah, apparently they're getting married to set up a lovely connection, for the foreseeable future. But I imagine that won't be very happy, we'll just say that. And then my favorite part of the episode is, of course, seeing Tyrion. Even though it was for a few minutes, it was pretty intense. We see him and Jorah, Mormont still traveling along, trying to get to Daenerys. But of course, they travel through this area that was, completely destroyed, and we see it's inhabited by these creatures. These humans that are infected with grayscale that we see Stannis' daughter has, but she was luckily she was treated for it. With all these doctors coming around. But we see these people who were never treated, and they're just completely turned into pretty much monsters. They're completely covered in grayscale, and they're just wildly attacking, trying to kill both Jorah and Tyrion. But one of the great things about this scene is right before we see the first one jump down, we see that Daenerys' third dragon flying overhead, and Tyrion sees a dragon for the first time in his life. So that's a pretty epic moment. It reminds me of, we've seen the flash of that scene in the trailer for Season 5, and one of the promotional posters they released actually kind of indicated that Tyrion would run into one like that. Yeah, so that was a pretty epic shot of Tyrion seeing the dragon. And Tyrion is almost touched by the grayscale. They're not supposed to touch you because then you'd probably get infected with grayscale, and it's very hard to treat. Very unlikely you'd survive it unless you have the greatest resources in the world, like Stannis pulled out for his daughter. Tyrion manages to be untouched. He's trying to convince Jorah to cut him loose so he can actually try to defend himself. But unfortunately, has to slide away, and he actually has to jump off the little boat they had as Jorah fights off some of them and kills a couple, I'm guessing. And except that it looks like one sort of drags Tyrion down into the water. And I was worried that they were going to cut off the episode right there. But no, they didn't. Jorah is apparently able to save Tyrion, and he brings him ashore, unfortunately without their boat. And, then they agree to, they have a long walk ahead of them unless they find a fishing town to, get another boat. And then we see that Jorah, he looks at his wrist and he's actually touched, so he has the grayscale now. So he may die eventually this season, we'll see. Depends what happens when he gets to Daenerys, I think. If things go well, maybe Daenerys will try to treat him somehow, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, that is all pretty intense. And, yeah, it looks like Tyrion and Jorah actually get along a little bit here and there. Once they get the whole intense part out of the way, and Jorah actually says a word to Tyrion, he actually acknowledges things he's saying. They don't seem to click too terribly. And I think once Jorah actually does get Tyrion to Daenerys, Daenerys isn't going to kill Tyrion. Tyrion's going to end up helping her out. And yeah, we'll see what becomes of all that, though. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about this episode. I know I probably left some things out, or if you guys just want to talk about something a little bit more than I did in the video, feel free to leave a comment below. We'd love to discuss it more with you guys. And yeah, overall, another solid episode this week. No real complaints about it. Although it is a little bit slow. It seems, I know the show has always been a slow burn, But this season it feels like especially slow, like it's trucking along just a little bit slower right now, you know what I mean? Even though the acting is still good and it still feels like a quality show, you know, I just feel like the pace is just slower than it actually should be at this point. But nonetheless, I still like watching it every week. And I admittedly, though, honestly, I'm looking forward to watching Penny Dreadful a little bit more now. But yeah, that has me way more excited. But I still do like to watch Game of Thrones, and I am eager to see where all this build-up is going. I can't wait to see what happens at the end of the season. And I'll catch you guys next time, most likely for a review of the Penny Dreadful episode that aired tonight. Considering switching over to Showtime as opposed to HBO. Can't really afford to have both of them right now. Got some personal finance issues kind of going on right now. But I'm considering switching back over to Showtime because I'm just way more into Penny Dreadful right now, and I'd rather watch that on TV as opposed to watching it online. But we'll see what happens. But either way, I'll try to get weekly reviews of both shows out to you guys with each new episode that airs. And so expect my review of Penny Dreadful to come up soon within the next day or two. And catch you guys next time, and peace.